an unknown amount of time, just because of how things are going to work. Let's go ahead and start Kalmir. Your golden road. Lovely chantry at the end of it. Metaphorically. Tell us about it.
All right, so it appears to be the inside of a large building. There is no outside. Outside does not exist. There are windows, and every window points to a different scene. Some familiar, a field, a city. Some not so familiar. A tangled mass of red vines, or pure dark, just as black as you can imagine. That everywhere is different, and in every room there's shelves, I guess you could, all the walls are covered with shelves, jars and jars and jars and jars, all glowing slightly different colors in each of them. And Kalmir is at one of his desks. He has a jar on the table, and he's writing notes into a journal and looking at the jar, writing some more notes. He pulls out another jar. He seems to be just doing busy work for the moment, kind of comparing one to the other. He might cast a spell here or there to see how each one reacts, in what ways, how are they different. There are times when he creates one out of thin air, which was something impossible for him in the past. Now it's kind of an afterthought. He opens some, drinks, and then it disappears. Kind of sits there tasting it, seeing how it goes down. Then he gets to one shelf. There's only one jar on that shelf, nothing else on it. Goes to it and takes it down. Again, casts some spells, some knowing spells, trying to understand the truth of it, trying to understand the hidden meanings behind it, trying to find if it's connected to anything in any realm, in any time, in any place. And if he finds such a connection, like a tailor finding a stray thread, he snips it just to make sure that there's no chance of it leading him anywhere he does not want to be, to anyone or anything that he doesn't want to be beholden to.
Does Kalmir even remember the events?
He does actually. He has a perfect memory. He has eidetic memory. He has that, pretty sure I gave him that. Yeah. He has that merit. So he remembers everything that ever happened over the 8,000 years that led up to that moment, and however much time has spent since that moment. So he recalls, all the faces, all the names, all the people that he met, And he finds that at the time, what he was doing seemed, incredibly important. Fighting that thing was a culmination of a lifetime of effort, basically. Many lifetimes of effort. But looking back on it now, he sees that he should have spent his focus elsewhere. Instead of, looking down at your feet and what's there, there's an infinite sky if you just look up. So many possibilities. There are places that would make, the mortal realms, the Fey realms, the shadow, the underworld, all that seem frivolous. And all he has to do is, seemingly just think about going that way. And one of the keys to going in any direction that he feels that he wants really is literally in the palm of his hand, in this little jar. This is the start, essentially, of an eternal journey of infinity. I know it's kind of vague, but vagaries are kind of what he hopes for now. Because specifics are just hard set rules, and he doesn't want to be bound by hard set rules. He's had rules. He's made rules. He's had rules thrown at him. He's had rules used against him, and he's used them against others. And now he feels so far above the rules that anything less would be an insult to his existence.
We're gonna leave Kalmir here for right now. Apollo. Or is there another name that I should be calling you at this time? Another title, perhaps?
Apollo is still going to be his primary title. Apollo is still going to be who he is. He will take up other roles, but at the end of the day, still me. Apollo's not disconnected from the threat. The threat is still within essentially the home that he now has. Previous lifetime, he would have been content to just turtle up in a little section of Arcadia and live there. But action is required. Much of his time is spent hunting down every shred of the plague that he can find within Arcadia, within the hedgeways. Naturally, there's only so much one person can do. He spends quite a lot of time trying to, I don't want to say recruit, but more convince, obligate various entities to joining him in this kind of watch over the Fey worlds, as to put it lightly. Naturally, that probably extends to goblins, huntsmen, if they can be cooperated with. And given previous leanings and perhaps the cracks that now lead to a distant hissel spirits as well. But
Your, we'll just call it what it is, motley band of miscreants, malcontents.
anyone content to stand in a essentially a firestorm of superheated plasma? Anyone content to bring the wrath of the cosmos down upon anything that wants to threaten what he considers his home now?
As your crew watches another hive burn, one thought is very clear. The hedge seems to be recovering. Whether that means that whatever happened in the mortal world is taken care of or not, you don't have an answer to that. However, the time between finding one hive and then the next is starting to exponentially increase. We're talking orders of magnitude greater each time.
Well, plague cannot be suffered to exist, these hives. The longer it takes, the more eyes we need looking for them. Eventually, he'll turn his eyes outwards past the hedge, but for now, they're still finding hives. And he is more than content to light them on fire every time. Smell of burning insect is relaxing.
You see a few of those burning insects take flight. They make it probably about 100 feet away before they completely incinerate to nothing but ash, sprinkling their dust just through momentum.
He is content with it. Forest that burns down does grow back from the ashes.
One of the goblins, one that in a past life you knew relatively well, watches as they burn to the ground. I think we've come so far.
And yet, that it happened once, we cannot allow it to happen again.
You think we'll ever actually eradicate all these things?
Eventually, if they stop growing, perhaps. They're either growing, thinning in numbers, or they're getting better at hiding.
One's far more hopeful than the other, wouldn't you say?
Hope is irrelevant. If they are getting better at hiding, we will simply get better at finding them.
Have you heard from any of the other Fae recently?
Have any of the other Fae interfered with my rampage across Arcadia?
As the Arbiter? bring that question first.
Probably not.
Really, the Arbiter's the only other Fae that currently exists. To the best of Apollo's knowledge.
Yeah. The other Fae, much like they were before, are content to sit in their own castles. Out here, we run freer than most. They don't concern me until they stand in my way. We must, of course, keep eyes on them, in case any decide to harbor threats within their domains. But we have time, I believe.
We are going to draw our attention towards Arcadia itself, Arbiter, or where would you be located at this time?
Well, where exactly? As there's like, this sort of slightly kind of desolate, arid landscape, which is only broken by a solitary figure walking across it, like kind of almost gorilla-like, these extended front arms, but then kind of up on it, its back structure that has all these like lean-tos, small constructs on it, and like ever getting higher up towards the central point where the Arbiter is kind of sat, legs slung over the side of a chair. Is this the walking town, which is now his domain?
From your seat upon the walking town, notice
Tower.
Sorry, I heard town.
No.
My bad.
I said town, and then I realised tower sounds better.
Fair enough. From your walking tower, Arcadia looks much the same. The one thing of note, despite being somewhat desolate, the Ice Palace still stands. The realm that you know belongs to Mourning Frost. It has not fallen, but it remains empty. Even the changelings have left at this point, having not seen any sign of their keeper.
Just silently
Just silently
watching it.
You had antlers there for a second. Did you need to say something, Peter?
No, I was saying, what about the huntsman? Antlers.
You haven't seen the huntsman in a while, since it's being asked about. Outside of watching the frozen citadel, as it were, what else does the Arbiter spend their day doing?
A lot of it is at least reconstruct all different narratives. Those ones that never took place.
Such as?
a lot are his own, and if they find themselves stopping, which is very much at the whim of the sort of the beast itself, it'll create like a little part of Arcadia, which is sort of a memory that was lived. Of course, there's the times when you come across the hives, and then it's what's necessary.
At this point, we are going to shift focus to a being approaching your tower. I'm assuming you have perception throughout all the tower, and the tower itself is essentially an extension of you.
Yeah, there's sort of like little kind of, there's goblins as well that kind of man it, and I dare say at this point a couple of changelings.
This appears to be a new phenomenon that has been somewhat on the rise. One of the aboriginals, one of the free huntsmen, as they call themselves, with so many hearts being free that were freed due to, well, lack of Fae being able to move the hearts, they have essentially come into their own, becoming their own governing entity.
And this guy's just in like the plains below, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, like kind of descending, shimmy down like this long chain that like trails along the ground behind it. Go down to the ground level. And I'll approach.
He lets you approach. As you do get to a certain distance, he does raise his hand as if to gesture to stop.
Orders to the gentry.
You are about to enter into our territory. I recommend you turn back at this moment in time. We have no need for your kind here.
I don't really have much say over where it goes. Sorry.
You better fix that real quick.
What are you hiding? Just passing through.
We aren't hiding anything.
I'm just a nomad.
To have the people that enslaved us run right through downtown, as it were. I believe that's the terminology that you would understand. I've heard of you. The human once.
That was a long time ago.
Let's just say the hedge is finally starting to turn back to what it should be. Without interlopers such as yourself.
And the way I see it, we can either come to some sort of agreement, an accord, understanding. I'll be through,
You'll never even know I was here. We rise up and take those hearts back, and you end up right back where you were.
Another entity appears. This one a little bit more familiar to you. Or at least you have vague memories of this individual. Staghorn helmet. He places his hand on the other person's shoulder, shakes his head. Don't worry, I'll talk with this. Looks over at the Arbiter. Mind if I come aboard for a while?
Please. I never thought I'd greet you as an old friend. Isn't the world full of surprises?
He gestures for you to meet him up there as he leaps into the air.
Shimmy back up.
His leaping ability is as prestigious as always. Up there, long before you make your way back up.
Dominion.
You've certainly got quite a view up here.
I like the change. One place, always the same. Wasn't for me. So used to living a life on the run. Well, now I can't stop moving.
I get that. Things have been a long time coming, haven't they?
How long, I don't know, but yes. I agree with you there.
The human concept of time is worthless. It only takes account one thing and ignores all the rest. You heard from... Oh, what is he calling himself now? Apollo?
Not for a long time. One thing that he hasn't changed is he was always bullheaded in his nature. One focus, one drive.
Finding success. I'll put it like that. The
Good.
number of hives and parasites has decreased substantially. What about the other? And he kind of turns his head to look over at the the frozen citadel.
On.
Gone? That's what you think? I mean...
When people start a sentence like that, it usually means I'm missing a detail.
Well,
To inform me.
that detail, and he kind of makes a gesture at the still standing citadel. Could you repeat that?
Oh, reclaimed maybe.
To the best of my understanding, there's only 2 Fae active right now. However, there's 3 Dominions.
So go on.
Kind of shakes his head. Goes, things here are immediate. When something happens, this place reacts immediately.
I'm fully aware.
I'm sure you are. If she was gone, that would have collapsed. And he turns to face you, grabs the front part of his helmet, lifts it up, and sets it down. Whether it's on the floor or a table is kind of dependent upon how this place is designed. I don't know if you have end tables or anything like that.
Yeah, they are, but everything looks like it's about to collapse, though. So it's like...
As he sets his helmet down, we're going to move over back to Kalmir. That soul that you hold is your soul. A different version of you, but you nonetheless. Capable of casting spells the exact same way you did. The only difference is a minor split in the timeline.
Minor.
Well,
as far as reality now goes, yes, it was minor.
yes.
Okay, so after he feels that he's studied it sufficiently, he's gotten enough answers that he's comfortable with it now. He's going to leave this room, walk through the mansion, down some steps. There are other entities not milling about, but doing different duties. Some are dusting, some are, cleaning, moving furniture. None of them look human, although they are all still wearing suits somehow, even though some are clearly not human bodies, not even bipedal. But he ignores them for the most part. They're doing what he brought them here to do, or what he made them to do. Either way, they're performing their functions as they're meant to. So he ignores them, goes down and down into what could be a basement, except it has no walls. Like, there's no solid walls anyway. It's very similar to a place he's been before, in like an infinite cavern, except it's not a cavern, it's just a space below. And he kind of thinks idly that's probably what that other place was, just a place below. So he walks, there's no middle, but he walks to a space he's marked out with a large circle, and he steps into the middle of that. It has taken him a long time to carve, just inch by inch. It has to be absolutely perfect in every detail, not only the geometry, but also the depth of each carving into whatever ground this is has to be the exact depth it needs to be. Otherwise, the reality would not change in the way that he needs it to. And as he goes there, again, reminiscing about the past, he had always, looked down on lesser beings, well, humans, because they were fodder to him for most of his life. And it's only now, they're still technically that, but they still served a purpose, however small. He would not be where he is right now if not for every minor detail that even the lowliest of them performed. Even a slight change could have altered anything, with the butterfly effect, essentially. It comes up in his mind and it passes. He has more pressing matters to attend to. This is the culmination of years and years of work. Stands in the middle. He opens the jar, but he does not drink it like he did the others. Even though it's liquid, he pulls it out. Still liquid, but pulls it out nonetheless and holds it in his fingers. Examines it and kind of feels it. He hasn't touched it in a while. He places it on his chest, and it sticks and sits there for a bit as he starts chanting in high speech the spell that will culminate in his ascension beyond mortal, beyond immortal, to true, as far as he can tell right now, to true godhood.
As this spell begins to take shape, a being such as yourself notices some imperceptible thing. Specifically referring to your golden road that leads to your chantry here. You notice, from a reality that, while you remember it, it's so far beneath you. But you do see something attempting to corrupt the golden road. I'm gonna leave that there. Apollo. At this point, an earthquake happens. Most of your motley crew is unable to keep on their feet. They fall to the ground. The ground shaking so violently that there's even a split moment where you wonder if the edge itself is just going to break apart.
Did it have like a direction, or was it just directly underneath us, kind of everything?
It was everything. It didn't feel like it was directly underneath you, but it felt like it was everywhere. So while I shouldn't say it didn't feel directly underneath you, because you felt some directly underneath you, but then you also felt it to your left, to your right.
Is The pit we climbed out of all those hunts ago still open, as far as I'm aware.
Yes. While the hives have been forged, holes seem to take longer to heal. You have noticed that a few have started to heal, but something of that size, it's gonna take a very, very long time.
I will return to that first one then, presumably the largest one. And I'm gonna see what's in the darkness below. Because an earthquake implies something in the earth. I know that much.
As you approach, you get to witness firsthand the Frost Citadel begin to crumble and descend into the abyss below.
I suppose I will approach what remains and just assess the situation myself.
Go ahead and give me intelligence investigation. As you begin to look around, you notice it's the telltale signs of a title no longer being in use. This area no longer having titles to sustain it has crumbled.
Well, I mean, I can't say he feels mournful over the loss of another Fae. It's just another pit into the bottomless below that he now has to keep an eye on, in case something decides to crawl out of it.
As you turn your head, you see a tower in the distance, lumbering somewhat slowly. Is when I'm going to go back. The Arbiter. As the huntsman puts his helmet down, looks like a relatively handsome, structured face, definitely masculine. It's at this point that the earthquakes start, and he turns and watches the citadel crumble into the earth below, the hedge below.
Almost as if it was waiting.
You know, us huntsmen didn't necessarily want to do what we did. Sure, some of us found joy in our work, but we were still unwilling participants.
I believe you. It was the loyalists I could never understand.
Here's the thing, though. That being said, even if we wanted to, we weren't able to disobey.
Oh, I know. I understand a lot more.
That brings us to here. Here and now. In the next moment, the sky is turned pitch black. As you look around, it looks like you're inside some sort of fleshy growth. This is not something I want to do at all. Places the helmet back on his head and draws the spear, the cross spear. And a voice, familiar, yet joined in a chorus altogether. Believe it, taken the deal. I had given you everything. Now, all you will know is suffering. As a fae, as a fae descends, emerging from the flesh, nothing but a putrid mass of walking disease. She descends and stands next to the huntsman, holding a still beating heart. I never wanted to let this. Thank you for looking directly at the huntsman. Thank you for fulfilling your last duty from Mourning Frost. As she is no more, I will be handling this. Your first order from your new mistress, Fae of End Times. Mourning Frost had just one wish for you to suffer all eternity, Arbiter.
No, I always knew that something like this was coming.
Up her hand. See the faint underneath the putrid flesh. You see small ice crystals. But as quickly as you see them, the tumorous masses grow over it.
You have just finished listening to this week's episode of the Contagion Chronicle, The World Plague, the conclusion to the Domain Gaming's Contagion Anthology, written and told by Wyverian. A special thanks to you, the listener, and if you wish to continue supporting us, subscribe, like, and share. As always, comments are welcomed. Until the next chapter, don't stop asking yourself, What is this plague that invades both body and mind?